Well, the United States was angry with India ever since India abstained at the United Nations Security Council and General Assembly over the US-sponsored resolution on Russia. Well, India has its own reasons for taking this stand, but however, the America has been acrimonious on this issue. It began with the resentment expressed by Ami Bera, the chairman of the American House of Representatives Committee for Asia. Then subsequently, the White House spokesperson deplored India's stand. Then it was the turn of the President Biden, who expressed disappointment at the India stand. Well, he said India's response on Russia is feeble. So he stated that India is scared of Russia. Well, now it is the time of the Deputy National Security Advisor of the United States, Dalip Singh, who is now visiting India. Well, he has made a public statement, a sort of a clear warning to India. So he warned India that there will be serious consequences if India continues to engage with Russia and try to work out an alternate payment system, a payment system alternate to the dollar payment system. So what does it mean? After the Russian war in Ukraine, United States and the West imposed sanctions on Russia. So when they imposed sanctions on Russia, some of the Russian entities were banned from international payment system called SWIFT. So this essentially means that payments to Russia become difficult. Well, however, certain banks of Russia were exempted because the Europeans still have energy trade with Russia. So to facilitate European energy trade with Russia, certain banks of Russia are exempted. But however, Russia is exempted from this international, banned from this international payment system. So India has to make the payments for the oil which it is importing. In fact, Russia is the second largest exporter of energy, oil, and the largest exporter of gas in the world today. So after the American and NATO sanctions on Russia, Russia is selling oil at a discounted price. The media report suggests that at least there is at least 35% discount offered to India. So ever since the Ukraine war has begun, India has imported around 13 million tons of oil from Russia. This is certainly huge compared to its earlier imports. In 2021, India imported 16 million barrels, or not tons, 16 million barrels for the entire year. In just 35 days, we have imported 13 million barrels from Russia. So the United States today wants that if India continues to have trade with Russia and make payments in rubles, so it is called the rupee-ruble exchange. So if we make payments through this rupee-ruble system, the India will have to face serious consequences. Surprisingly, this is a very serious warning to a friendly nation called India. The first question America should answer is, despite sanctions, why is Europe still trading with Russia on energy? So America has banned energy imports from Russia, but Europe has not yet banned energy imports from Russia. Europe has only announced that it will gradually reduce energy imports from Russia. So when Europe is importing oil and gas from Russia still, what is wrong if India imports? India imports 85% of its crude oil requirements. So the crude oil prices are rising like anything. Ever since the beginning of Ukraine war, there's a 50% jump in the global crude prices, which is having a serious crippling impact on Indian economy. Well, if America wants India not to buy oil from Russia, despite an offer of low price, then America should make its allies, Saudi Arabia and United Arab Emirates, to offer oil at a lesser price. Today, the American allies and American oil companies are earning a lot of money because of the high crude oil prices and want India not to buy oil at a discounted price from Russia. So there's no meaning in it. Well, at least Russia has invaded Ukraine. There may be some ground for American argument. But similar conditions were imposed on India when it was buying oil from Iran. So the President Obama of the United States struck a nuclear deal with Iran, and President Trump has cancelled this deal and said that India should not buy oil from Iran. At the time, Iran was accounted for 10% of India's oil imports, and Iranian oil was cheaper, and there was a facility to pay in rupees. When you have a facility to pay in rupees, there is an advantage. The advantage is the other country can only spend those rupees to buy goods from us. So therefore, it is a double advantage. So if you have a rupee-ruble exchange agreement with Russia, when you pay Russia for oil, what you purchase in rupees, Russia can only spend those rupees for buying something from India. So therefore, it is perfectly reasonable for India to have a trade relation with Iran. But American forced us and Indian government succumbed to the US pressures, and ultimately we have brought the Iranian imports to zero. So what did India fight, invade any country? Why did America impose sanctions on Iran? Well, on Russia at least there is some justification, there is some legitimacy that Russia has invaded Ukraine. But why did United States impose sanctions on Iranian oil? So therefore, US sanctions or the Western sanctions are intended to further their strategic advantage. So it is rather surprising that a country of United States, a friendly nation like United States, hurls such threats to an independent sovereign country called India. When America are finding fault with Russia for invading an independent nation like Ukraine, what right America has to impose conditions, threaten an independent nation like India? A sovereign country like India is empowered to have its own foreign policy decisions. So who is United States and who is Europe to dictate terms to us? Not just US, even the European nations, including Germany, said that India cannot reap economic advantage from the sanctions regime on Russia. Our simple question is, well, when India and Pakistan, there was a violent confrontation, did America impose any sanctions on Pakistan? When China intruded into India at the Galwan Valley 2 years ago, did America impose any sanctions on China? So when India wants, America never imposed sanctions on anybody. Today, America wants India to listen to its tune. So this is absolutely arrogant stand by the United States, is an hegemonic stand by the United States. It has no business to threaten a sovereign nation, an independent country like India, and that way a friendly nation like India cannot accept such threats. Unfortunately, neither the government nor the political leadership in India has so far reacted to this Americans' threat and hurled by the Deputy National Security Advisor right in India. And that too not a sentiment expressed in its negotiation with Indian officials. He made this in a public utterance in a press conference. So therefore, it is unethical, it is absolutely unacceptable that the United States threatens India for trading with Russia, and Russia is the old trade partner of India. This rupee-ruble agreement goes back to the Soviet era. Even our S-400 anti-missile defense system also falls under the rupee-ruble system. So therefore, Americans' threat of consequences has to be completely rejected by a patriotic Indian.